think about that second before you unmute. Just slightly nervous. And if English isn't your first language and you have to talk to native speakers, it's even worse. Now, it's not because your English is bad, it's because you don't control that moment. So if you want to calm your nerves and make people actually listen, then it starts before you unmute. Let's fix it. The first thing to do is pause before you speak. Now, there's a fine line between hesitation and a confident power pause. Imagine there are two archers, you know, the guys that shoot with the bows and arrows. Well, the first archer is nervous. He draws back and hesitates. And when he finally releases, well, his arrow ends up in the trees. The second archer zones in on the target, draws back, pauses, and then releases with intention. Same delay, completely different energy. And before you release your arrow by clicking unmute, you need to pause, then take a deep breath and know what to say. And then you can speak. Now, it sounds easy, but it's actually hard because you have to know what to say first. And we're going to come back to these, especially know what to say. Very important. But before we go any further, let me clear something up. Native speakers are not analysing your grammar in that moment. They're not sitting there thinking, oh, was that the correct tense? They're thinking, is this useful? And do I believe him or her? Now, if you can transmit your idea clearly, that's what matters. The pressure you feel about your English level, well, you're placing far more importance on it than they are. So stop trying to sound perfect, start trying to sound clear. Anyway, back to the board. This sounds simple enough. Take a deep breath. I know how to breathe. Well, a lot of people cock it up. There's a nice expression for you. And if you do it wrong, it makes you sound worse. So close your mouth. You're not a fish. And breathe into your stomach. Belly breathing, we call it. As you breathe in, you should feel your whole abdomen expand. Not up here, but down here. If your shoulders move, then you're doing it wrong. Last year I spoke at a conference, a big room, and now I know what I'm talking about, but I was nervous. So I stepped into the lights, looked at the audience, and I took my pause and I took an eternal breath. They were starting to think, is this guy okay? But in that silence, I could feel the attention draw in, and then I controlled the room. That big presentation energy is what you're aiming for to be heard on a Teams meeting online. But on Teams, everything needs exaggeration compared to in person. So take that pause, especially if you're presenting or asked to speak. Now, I know you don't always get that space, and we're going to talk about how to cut through the arguments and intense discussions in a minute. But for now, let's imagine you have some time. Where's my whiteboard? So it starts with the pause and the deep breath. Oh, we'll add the no shoulders on there. The next thing to sound more confident is this one, knowing what to say. Now, it's a meeting, so you can't know exactly what you're going to say, but you can do this. Know your first 5 words. In that fraction of a second before you unmute, before you open your big mouth, plan your first 5 words. That prevents, what I was thinking is that maybe we could. It's weak. And if you're the type of person who's overly apologetic, then this is the type of phrase that weakens your assertiveness. So decide what your point is and get to it. I'll give you a few examples. Oh, my pen knackered, man. We should sack the receptionist. I propose a strategic change. Let's take a break. Or the best move here is to tell them to shove that contract up their ass. Whatever it is. See what I did there? By knowing the first 5 words, you can eliminate hesitation, get rid of all your ums and ahs, and plan to use unapologetic language that commits you to what you want to say. I'm not saying that you always have to deal in absolutes. We need nuance in arguments. It's not always so simple and black and white. But if you've got an opinion on something, bloody stand by it. That's just the first 5 words. You have to think of the rest as you go. That's your job. And I assume you know what you're doing. But a strong start makes other people take you seriously. And it gives you the confidence, because you've had a good start, to get your amazing ideas out of your brain. Respect. So what do you do before you unmute? 3 things. Pause, deep breath, first 5 words. That's it. That's the difference between nervous and controlled. And that's how you control the moment before you speak. Now I know what you're thinking. JD, that's all well and good. But when I'm in a structured meeting and they bring me in and say, what would you like to add to the conversation? That's fine. You can be like the Olympic archer with all the time in the world. But most of the meetings I've been in aren't like that. Everybody's talking at once and the same loud people are trying to dominate the conversation. And it's impossible to get a word in, especially if you're a bit on the quiet side like me. Well, here, you've got to move a bit quicker. So now I'm going to show you how to force your way in. First principle, don't try and compete for volume. Screaming and shouting in the boardroom might have worked in real life in 1998, but these days, Karen will report you to HR. And being loud and talking at the same time as other people just doesn't work on video calls. So instead of volume, you've got to compete on timing. In those discussions, there's always a breath, a micro gap. That's where you attack. Now this time, you've got to be unmuted before the gap arrives and get your first 5 words ready. But this time, your opener needs to shut the others up. Now this might be easier than you think, especially if you're normally the quiet type, because they're not expecting it. And then PAM! Like this. Right, you lot, fucking shut up and listen. Sorry, got that one off my old boss. Yeah, don't do that. Keep it a little bit professional, like this. Let me jump in here. Hold on, quick point. One thing that's being missed. They cut through the noise because people hear something different that signals control. And especially that last one, something being missed, it generates a bit of curiosity and people want to know, oh, what have we missed? Then you hit them with your point. And remember, no, I was thinking that maybe if we could. No, I propose, or let's do X. Look, these techniques come with a warning. They can get you promoted or fired. They can make you look strong and confident, but you still need to know your audience. If you're talking to a client, if you're challenging a director, if you suddenly start saying, oh, we shall do this, in the wrong context, you don't look confident, you look unaware. It's not about stamping your authority, it's about calibration. Know who's in the room, know your role, then choose your level of force. That makes you sophisticated, not aggressive. Most international professionals think they need better English. They don't. They need better performance. And YouTube thinks you might like to watch this video next.